iPhone SE, 3 years later. It has been a minute since we covered this device. Now, I do want to mention, a lot of people say that, you know, I've done plenty of these, and I know that. I have done plenty videos on the SE, but we're going to look at this in comparison to a modern day iPhone. We're going to use the 10R for this example. We're going to look at it through that lens because I'm not going to sit up here and tell you the specs and stuff like that. That's repeat content. We're going to talk about it 2019, where the SE stands, some story about it, you know, some rumor stuff that happened, and where we're going in the future. Now, also, the SE tends to stir up a lot of controversy on this channel because there are some extreme fanboys of this phone and then some extreme people who don't like small phones, and it just causes tension. So be nice to each other in the comments. I will be moderating those, so no profanity and stuff like that, or you're going to get your comment deleted. So do not do that, and be nice to each other because this phone has fans from around the world and not everybody's in the same location. So be nice to each other. So is the screen still functional on the iPhone SE? That's what I'm kind of wondering here. Is it practical even in 2019, this smaller phone? And the answer to that question is it depends. You've got small hands, absolutely, it's still a useful phone, it's still practical. However, I think the fact that we use our phones so much more than ever before and we rely on them more, I do think that the size of the SE is becoming a bit cramped, and I don't know if we'll ever see 4 inches again on an iPhone. Now, we might see 5.2, 5.4, something like that. We might even see 4.9. We might see up there, but I don't know if we're ever going back down to 4 inches. And I think that the SE is still a great phone, you know, to throw in a gym bag or something like that, or to take with you if you just need something really portable for the day. But I think the way we rely on our phones today, I don't really like, you know, having such a small screen anymore. I've gotten used to large screens, and I think a lot of people will agree. So yes, it's functional, but it's not probably the preferred method, I think, of most users here in 2019. So the screen, the actual quality itself is retina display. We know this, but how has it held up? Well, considering that Apple put the iPhone XR in LCD display, if you put these side by side and you're looking at quality, you're not seeing that much of a difference. Now, the big screen gives it a better look on the XR, but in terms of sharpness, resolution, stuff like that, yes, the SE has held up okay, and that's mostly because Apple hasn't really been pushing screen tech that hard. They never really have. That's been Samsung. But at the same time, the quality of the screen itself is still okay in 2019, especially if you look at their iPad lineup. They're bringing iPad mini still, the 5th generation with an LCD screen. The 2018 iPad has an LCD screen. The iPad Air 2019 still has an LCD screen. So the SE still doesn't look out of place with its quality. So 3 years later, it's held up okay. The screen quality, I don't really have a huge problem with on this size. Yes, OLED will look beautiful on this small screen, but 3 years later, it's all right. So does the iPhone SE look old? And the answer to that question is yes and no. So I think the front of it looks pretty old, but Apple keeps launching products with bezels. They did it with the 8 Plus, they did it with the iPad mini 5th generation, and the SE has bezels still. Also, you can still buy bezeled iPhones with thick bezels in 2019 right now. You can buy the iPhone 7, 7 Plus, 8 Plus, all of them have bezels. 2018 iPad has bezels. So it's not like using an iPhone SE looks super outdated. The phone just looks a little bit old because they don't make this smaller size anymore. Also, if you got a rose gold SE, which was kind of how you knew it was an SE over a 5S, they don't make rose gold like this type of rose gold anymore. Now they have this gold that's trying to be like rose gold, but it really isn't. So Apple, bring back rose gold for the rose gold fans out there. The back still looks good. I don't really have a problem with the back. This still doesn't look outdated at all, I think, on the back. The sides doesn't look really outdated at all either. It's just the front bezels right here. All they had to do was stretch the bezels, bring out an SE2, and everybody would have been out buying those things like hotcakes. Is the build quality still good on the SE? And yes, because it has aluminum back, you don't have to worry about using a case if you didn't want to. Just slap a screen protector on the front and you should be pretty good with the SE. It's not a fragile glass back. You don't have wireless charging anymore, and that gives it a feeling of being old on the SE. But at the same time, I think the aluminum build just feels like the iPad's, kind of like the iPad Pro from 2018. It kind of feels like that feel, or any of the iPads with the aluminum have you. So yes, the build quality I think is still good. I don't think it's a great build quality, like it's the best build quality out there. There's so many phones that have great build now, but it's not that bad. Just slap a screen protector on the SE and this thing should still feel pretty good. So 3 years later, has the performance been strong? And I gotta say yes. And the SE is a great example of how good iOS really is in terms of lasting the distance. Now, is this phone super fast? The answer is no. But is it slow? And the answer is also no. It's been pretty good over my time using it, and even opening up stuff here, I have a hard time even seeing any slowdown. So the Apple A9 was a really beast chip for its time, and it held up pretty well. The 2017 iPad also has that chip, so it's not really a problem here with the SE, and it's still getting software updates. Now, is the new iPhones from 2019 faster? Absolutely, they should be. And the gesture just make the operating system feel more fluid, natural, and just very quick here on the new iPhones. There is a big difference between the new ones and the SE. But the SE, if you had one, I'm sure a lot of people who upgraded didn't upgrade because they were feeling a slowdown in performance. It was more likely probably for the screen size, better battery life, better camera. That's probably what they really wanted to upgrade from if they did do that upgrade, because speed, even now, is still not a problem on the SE. So is the software old? And the answer is yes and no. No, and then the fact that you still get updates, but I want to say that because of the way, it's crammed on the screen, and most iPhones have gestures now, stuff like that, I think the software just feels like the way you use it kind of feels like ancient iPhone, like iPhone 5 status, like way back. So other than that, the actual feature set is the same as the new phones, stuff like that. So held up much better than a lot of competing Androids at the time the SE does. And it still looks like pretty much any of the newer iPhones, just it's crammed down into the 4-inch screen. So software, not really that old at all. Just the way it functions is kind of like iPhone 5 because of the screen size. You get the icons more squished in here, and elements are just smaller than any other version of the software. But still, having updates, man, this is really excellent. 2016 is 2019. 3 years later, we still have updates on the SE. 3 years later, the biometrics bad on the SE, and the answer is no. The fingerprint sensor in a convenient location right on the front, first gen, who cares? It was still fast enough. Face ID is questionable. Not everybody likes it. So for some people, the Touch ID on the SE still just fine. And I actually like Touch ID. We still have it on MacBook Pros. We still have it on iPad Air, iPad Mini 5th gen. So no, biometrics doesn't feel old at all. You can still pay with Apple Pay with your fingerprint sensor. So no, Touch ID has aged very well. Apple has kept it around, which makes this phone not feel super outdated either. So the camera quality on the SE, is it still usable in 2019, 3 years later? And the answer is yeah, it's still usable. It's a good starter camera, but I never thought I'd be saying this, but it's actually starting to get kind of old, and a lot of the newer phones just take better pictures all around, especially in low light. The SE is just not a fantastic camera anymore. I don't care if you're shooting on the front or the rear. It's just not a fantastic camera anymore. It's just pretty good. Like it'll do, pretty nice photos in really bright lights, but when it gets nighttime, there's a lot of noise and grain, and even in the daytime, the detail is just not there when you zoom in, stuff like that. The front camera, 1.2 megapixels, something like that. It's just not the best. However, I do think it did pretty good for having such a low resolution. The software processing in iOS made them look okay. The camera is something that leaves a lot to be desired here 3 years later with the SE, and something that I think has become quite upgraded as a lot of companies have been focusing on camera tech. So the camera is okay here in 2019, but nothing to brag about. It really isn't. So what about the audio? Is it okay here in 2019? And I mean, you can use it, but ever since it launched, I never liked that it was only one speaker here on the iPhone SE. For me, the audio quality, still having headphone jack, is nice, but the audio quality on the newer iPhones like the XR with the dual speakers, Bluetooth 5.0, using AirPods, it's just a much better experience if you're not using a headphone jack. So in terms of battery life, the iPhone SE has always been a champ in this regard, but 3 years later, the battery life has taken a hit. When it first came out, it was really good, like ridiculous, like the iPhone XR type battery life. Now, after a few software updates, the battery life seems to drain a lot quicker. casual users should be able to get through a day. Anybody using this thing like a main phone, driving it hard, they are going to be needing a charger, going to be needing a battery pack. So this is not an all-day phone in the iPhone SE anymore if you use it more than casual use. And what I mean by excellent battery life is iPhone XR, over 3,000 milliamps, 4,000 milliamp Galaxy Note 9, 5,000 milliamp Mate 20X. I mean, Moto G7 Power, I believe it is, 5,000, something like that. I mean, phones have got huge cells now in them versus what the SE offered you. Phone call quality 3 years later, well, Apple's having, legal disputes, so their reception isn't the best, but their newer phones just sound better than the SE. The SE didn't sound that good through that earpiece. This was actually one of those phones I didn't like making calls on. I'd rather talk to people through the headphone jack with the lightning headphones. So one thing I never liked about the SE, and I still don't here in 2019, is phone call quality. I would not pick this phone up to make calls. Hardly ever. I would always go to something with a little bit better HD voice quality. So in conclusion, after 3 years, it's been a heck of a ride. The SE has been responsible for bringing a lot of you to this channel, exposing you guys to this channel, and thank you for sticking around for so long. But I think it's finally time to tell you, I don't think the SE is going to be a recommended phone anymore going forward, but it does have a great history, and I do think that Apple should pay attention more to what people like, because I think it broke a lot of people's hearts that they didn't bring an SE2 the next year or the following year. People even waited 2 years to see if they were going to bring that. However, we might be seeing a newer iPhone next year, maybe even this year, at 5.42 inches, and they're going to try to make it smaller. So we might see another smaller iPhone, but I don't think we're going back to this one. But I could be wrong. Let me know your thoughts if you think we're going to see this again, and let me know your thoughts 3 years later on the SE if you've held on, what you think about it. Click this like button for me. If you have somebody who's interested in the SE, share with them this video. Maybe they could find value in it. And subscribe if you haven't already. You don't want to miss out on plenty of content coming soon. We got the Galaxy Fold coming to the channel, as well as the new iPhones later this year. We got WWDC coming. We got plenty coming to your inbox. I will catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.